All right. What's up, everybody? Welcome to the finale podcast. Today I'm going to be joined by Chris. We're going to be talking about
How's it
the
going?
76ers Orlando Magic play-in matchup 7 versus 8 for the 7th seed, obviously. The right to play the Boston Celtics in the first round of the Eastern Conference playoffs. So, I mean, it's a big game tonight, and we'll probably touch on some other stuff too. But, yeah, excited to have you on, Chris.
Awesome. I'm glad to be back. It's always a fun time to be on your show, and I thoroughly enjoy it. I'm excited to talk hoops tonight. So
for sure, man. I remember the last pod we did, I think, was during the NFC and AFC
championship.
The
championship weekend.
Yeah. So it's been a while, but yeah, no, it's always fun to have you on. We always get into some good stuff.
For sure.
Yeah, but let's get right into this matchup. I mean, Philly, of course, gonna have the home advantage in this game. I mean, what are you looking forward to? I know Orlando's kind of had an up and down year, but you can probably say the same for Philly. So what are you looking into?
Well, I think for this game, they're gonna have to rely on Paul George a lot. Again, I know the last month or so he's kind of picked it up since his PED usage suspension, which wasn't ideal. But since he's come back from that, you've seen kind of the shades of like how he was like in his first 2 years with the Clippers, kind of able to shoulder some scoring. The defense is always there, but his defense is maximized, so he's going to have to show up tonight with the absence of Joel. You're going to need Maxey to get out to a fast start scoring. I think a fast start is probably most ideal. I haven't watched much of the Magic this year, but knowing the Sixers, once they usually start out fast, they're kind of able to control the tempo of the game. They found themselves in a lot of close games this year. And they're playing a team that has, they have a lot of talent, but obviously, like you said, they're going through a lot of turmoil. Mosley's probably on his way out this year, but they need to get out to a fast start tonight, kind of build on that crowd that's still humming from the past few days. It's been a really good week for Philadelphia sports. So obviously the Flyers, so people are still upbeat. Hopefully that can carry over to the Sixers. But the crowd's gonna play a factor, and I think the Sixers just have to get out to a fast start, find open shots, and I am a little bit concerned about how Drummond and Bona can guard Banchero or just do their jobs because Drummond this year has been really bad, but Bona is good. Just he can get a little rattled and uncoordinated at times when he's just chucking shots up. So it's going to be an interesting matchup, but I think the Sixers do have what it takes to win even without Joel Embiid.
Mm-hmm. I remember watching the 76ers, like I can't remember when it was, but when they came to Target Center to play the Timberwolves and they were without Embiid. And I think what really made the difference in that game was just VJ Edgecombe. I think there's like certain X factors that you guys have that make a difference. Like Bona is an X factor player. That one big man that I'm just forgetting his name. Barlow's an X factor player.
Yeah.
On the boards, obviously Kelly Oubre can do that too. So I think it's up to those guys really tonight in this game on both sides, the X factors to step up. And I feel like Philly has quite a few of those to the point where they can make a difference. And then obviously I think you're going to have a good game from Tyrese Maxey, man.
Yeah,
Maxey's like, he's a difference maker. Like he is pretty much unguardable when he gets going to the rack. He's so quick. So I think for Philly to have, the straightest pathway in terms of winning this game, I think Maxey's going to have to play a huge role in this game. And then you mentioned too, the matchup with Banchero. There's not really a matchup that you guys have that's favorable just with his size and his ability to just score the ball. I think he can have a really huge game tonight too. So that's going to be something I'm watching for as well.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And obviously they're going to also need production from Desmond Bain. Kind of interested to see who's in cover, and probably Edgecombe, I would assume. But yeah, they're Magic. We've had really similar seasons in a way, just at times, on long losing streaks, and then obviously our star players get injured. I'm pretty sure Wagner missed a good amount of time this year, and so obviously Embiid has too. So yeah, it's been a really up and down season for both. And I can tell you right now, I don't want to play Charlotte. I don't think Orlando does either. humming right now. They have a lot of momentum, so it would be best to get the job done tonight because Charlotte's playing some good basketball and they're riding high. And gotta get the job done tonight. Even though I've seen people saying they'd rather play Detroit than Boston, I don't think you can kind of overlook Charlotte though. So
No, yeah, Charlotte looked really good, man. I mean, the way they played yesterday against Miami, I mean, just the way they've kind of rescued their season. I mean, it didn't start out like this, but they kind of just put it all together, which shows you that they're going to have a really good future over there. So, I mean, that's a tough matchup if you guys lose this game and have to play them, because even Con Knipple and LaMelo Ball didn't have their best game, but it just shows you the depth that they have. So, I mean, that'd be a tough, but I think like tonight, you guys have a great chance to win this game. And like I was mentioning with Orlando, man, they had a chance to secure playoff positioning in the last game of the season against Boston in Boston, and they were playing a shorthanded Boston team that just rested pretty much everybody.
Rested a lot of guys,
You know, and that just shows you like that's unacceptable for a team to have that position and have that favorable sort of opportunity to clinch it and not be able to get it done. I think they're a team that maybe like 2 or 3 years ago you saw was kind of trending like Charlotte was in terms of just being one of the teams that are next up, and then I don't think they've quite taken that next step in terms of solidifying themselves in the Eastern Conference, which is kind of disappointing because we all saw how Paulo was. Paulo was very good his rookie year, and like early on in his career, and obviously Franz Wagner as well. Jalen Suggs, I think, he's developed pretty nicely. And then this year, you know, they make the big trade for Desmond Bane, all those picks. You're thinking that they're going to be solid in the Eastern Conference, but I mean, they're just so inconsistent. And I think that's just probably why we're seeing those Jamal Mosley rumors that are swirling right now, to the point where it's like, no matter what happens with Orlando, they're going to let go of him. So I think they're kind of in a position where they shouldn't be like just consistently hovering around the play-in year in, year out. They're a young roster. They should, by the time like they've gotten a few years of experience at this point, like they should be in the playoffs. Like we see a team like Atlanta literally just turn their season around really quick. And like they just traded for CJ McCollum, right? And then they
traded for him, and Jalen Johnson's taking that leap as well.
Yeah, so
really good, but like you said, like on paper they're better than a lot of teams. I can kind of relate with the Sixers as well. They're better than a lot of teams, but they're just not getting that production really out of them. Like for example, I think on paper they're better than Toronto, but Toronto finished ahead of them. So it's good. Like I think it'll be a pretty even matchup, but if we do play our game and we get the output scoring we need from Maxey Edge coming Georgia, I do expect the Sixers to pull away in the fourth, but we'll see because it's just this team's unpredictable. This team's extremely unpredictable. You really don't know what you're going to get. They've played a lot of games without Embiid this year, so this isn't like uncharted territory. It just depends what you're going to get out of your bigs, and if Barlow, Bona, maybe even Drummond, you know, they come into the game, they're going to have to they're going to have their hands full, obviously guarding Paulo, but it'll be a pretty good game. I'm excited for that. Hopefully a continuation of the past two games will be pretty good for the NBA. So hopefully Prime can fix their technical issues. But
man, that was unacceptable.
That cannot be happening at that point of the game.
That cannot happen. That was insane.
That was ridiculous.
Man, no. I mean, that's a whole nother conversation, but I don't know. I mean, I think both teams are unpredictable, though. You know, it's like you really don't know what to expect, which is why I think it's going to be a really good game. And I know earlier you were talking about it in the group chat, like 3 options for Philly. You know, they could win and then go into the Boston series and lose either in a sweep or in 5. And I mean, just what are your levels of optimism surrounding this team right now? Do you think it's just I mean, go ahead.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of hard. Obviously, you don't have your star player. I mean, you have no idea when he's going to come back. I don't know what the timetable is for appendicitis. I remember something similar happened with Joe Burrow. He missed like 2 weeks, so I think that's kind of like what it is. So you're looking at probably game 2 or game 3. The Embiid comes back. But again, you're playing a Boston team that has your number. You're playing a Boston team that, even without Tatum this year, was very good, 56-win team. Derek White's had an unbelievable season. Jaylen Brown is really good. So, I mean, obviously, the Sixers really don't have a shot against them. The only thing I could think of is, Detroit's a very good team, obviously, and they actually blew out the Sixers without Cade Cunningham. When the Sixers, I think, were fully healthy a few weeks ago. That they probably have a better shot against them than Boston, because Boston just has so much experience and they're made for the playoffs. Detroit put up a pretty good fight against New York last year, but I still think they're lacking kind of veteran experience. That makes sense in the playoffs, so it could be kind of uncharted territory. Even though I don't think that really matters first round. I think the better team usually wins, but the best option would probably just be to win tonight. I think it's very likely if they lose tonight that they miss the playoffs altogether. Charlotte's not a team that I like their matchup against, really. They played them a few times this year, and it's gone pretty back and forth. I think they've split games, but again, without Embiid, that's a very, very tough matchup, and they're hot right now. So best thing to do is probably just take care of business tonight, and just hope for the best against Boston. Even though it's not happening.
Yeah. I mean, that's true. I'd give you guys credit though against Charlotte. I feel like experience will play a role.
No, for sure. Yeah. It's just the thing is like you look at the season and the difference between the 5th and the 7th seeds a game. Say the Sixers, there was plenty of games Sixers should have won that they lost. They blew a 20-point lead against Chicago earlier in the season. They lost all 4 games to Atlanta. Had they won one of those, they would have been further up. I know San Antonio's a very good team, but Wemby got hurt in the first quarter and they still lost them. So like you look at games in the past and you just think they'd be in a much better position if they were the 5 seed right now than they were as the 7 seed or playing. But we'll see. I don't think the Sixers are like many other playing teams right now. I think they're fully healthy. I think that they're a team that's a top 3 team in the East. Problem is they're not fully healthy. So I think they do have the experience, I will say, for this matchup, but it's just at this point, it's hard to get optimistic when you're a 7 seed at best and you're playing a team that's really good. So,
yeah, I feel like the phrase, fully healthy and 76ers, that they go hand in hand. Probably the past 10 years, with exactly. The whole Embiid era, 100%. So, I guess, what is your level of trust beyond Tyrese and VJ Edgecombe in this roster going forward? And that includes like with Nick Nurse as well.
Not a lot. This isn't a very top-heavy roster. If you look at it, there's a pretty steep drop-off after Edgecombe. When you have Maxey, George, and Embiid, it's a pretty steep drop-off. Quentin Grimes is way too unpredictable. Some games he'll score 16, but most games he'll score like 3 or 4 points. You don't really know what you're going to have him. Kelly Oubre is another player that's very similar to that. Offensively, pretty frustrating. He tends to take really bad shots at times, but those are probably your 2 options when it comes to your depth on the team. They actually sold at the deadline for some reason. Can't really explain the McCain trade. I know they got a first-round pick out of it, but he would have easily carved out a role with all the injuries this year. I know he wasn't getting much playing time when Grimes was back, but still, the trade makes no sense to me. Why would you not really make any additions when you have, Paul George, who's 35, we're turning 36. I forget. I think he's turning 36 soon. You have Joel Embiid, who's 32. These guys aren't getting any younger. You're not going to have really a contention period for much longer. So you got to kind of make some moves to go in. And I have theories on why they sold at the deadline. I can't say them on camera, but it's the depth isn't there because I don't think they invested properly in it, if that makes sense. Like I said, you have 2 guys really off the bench, Grimes and Oubre, that I think are that's probably it when it comes to depth, really.
So,
and again, I don't know much about Orlando's roster outside of a couple of players, but I assume their depth is better because the Sixers are just extremely top heavy. So,
yeah, they got a pretty good starting 5. I think some other guys that stand out, maybe Tristan Da Silva, Javon Carter, Wendell Carter,
yeah.
Utadze, certain guys like that, like just maybe like make an impact. I know Mo Wagner as well. So they got some guys that can come in and have some impact. But I think Philly's got a bunch of players that are just like you mentioned, the word unpredictable. Like they got a bunch of players that can sort of be that spark plug in a game like this, which I think gives them an advantage because, I mean, somebody's got to, come through. At least one of them have to come through.
Absolutely.
So I feel like that's kind of how it's going to go. But I do agree that's not a sustainable way of building a roster because, you can't make a team, like build a team and just rely on those sort of guys like Quentin Grimes. I mean, I've seen Quentin Grimes have great games when he was with Dallas, when he was with New York and with Philly, but it's the consistency of it all that he doesn't quite have. He obviously, I think he's a good defender, but I think offensively, like just in terms of, the scoring, the 3-point shots, I mean, consistency is the name of the game. And the same can be said, like you mentioned, with Kelly Oubre.
Oh, absolutely.
And some other guys Andre Drummond's had some good games too, but it's all about consistency with the group. And I think in a game like this, I would imagine one of them can come through and make an impact.
Yeah, I mean, now thinking about it, you're probably going to see a 6 or 7 man rotation tonight, I would say. I mean, even though it's a playoff game, but you're going to get a lot of minutes from Maxey, Edgecombe, and George. I don't really see them going much deeper than that. It depends on foul trouble. If I could see, obviously, I mean, Barlow starts, but I could see if Bono gets into foul trouble, they might pull someone off the bench and move him to the 5. So, it'll be interesting to see how that goes tonight. But I think they're gonna have to rely a lot on George, Maxey, and Edgecombe for pretty much everything tonight. So,
yeah. Man, I mean, I feel like we covered a lot, but Nick Nurse, do you think his job is like similar to Mosley in terms of like security?
I do because I'll be honest with you, after the season, I don't know really the direction the Sixers want to go, if they want to kind of just do another soft rebuild or do a complete rebuild or just do like a retool. And it feels like at this point, it's just throughout this season, he's made a lot of questionable decisions in game coaching. And coaching the NBA usually don't really last that long. And, I just feel like we could have done a lot better with what we had this year and we didn't, hence why we're in the play-in. So, I mean, if they win tonight and they get swept, I think he's done. If they maybe win like 2 games against Boston, I could see him returning, but it's gonna be, I don't really see him in their timeline going forward, but we'll see. I mean, I think it's warranted for Morey to leave, but I don't see it happening. So, I think as of right now, it's probably 65, 35, 70, 30 that he's not going to be back next year. So similar to Jamal Mosley. I don't see him really returning. So,
no, that's true. I feel like, I mean, I would agree completely. But I also, would agree with the Daryl Morey point where it's like he probably hasn't set him up quite well for success with this roster. I think the sustainability of the roster isn't great, as I mentioned. And when you look at the top 6 or 7 of the Eastern Conference right now, like they all have a pretty solid core of players, whether that's young talent or just experienced talent that contributes at a high level every single night. And I feel like Philly lacks that. And when they did go after those players like a Paul George or, Embiid, keeping him around, I think it's like they kind of missed the market in that way where maybe they could have moved on from Embiid or maybe they could have surrounded Embiid with someone a little bit better than Paul George at this stage of his career and invested those, finances a little bit better, right? So I think looking back, there's a bunch of decisions. You mentioned the McCain thing too.
Also deadline, exactly. They did nothing at the deadline. That's a huge part of why there's a
lot of things. I mean, and teams that like are feeling like they're ready to compete in the playoffs, they make moves at the deadline. So I think it's about the ambition of where the team wants to go. And I don't know if you guys are, satisfied with these results, but I think Philly fans, they let you hear it. That's been, the case for a while. And I think they probably won't be satisfied with results that lead to the play-in and like losing in the first round. Right. So, I mean, you guys are trying to, get back to a point where, you used to be very competitive when like the early years of Embiid and Simmons, when those guys were around. And, obviously you guys haven't been to like the conference finals in a very, very long time. Right. But
they were competitive enough to make it, is what you're saying.
Even that level, well, you guys were competitive enough to get to that point. So I think I mean, just with Maxi, entering that age, like 20, 25 or so, and obviously VJ, he's a very promising player. I don't know what the options are in terms of, trying to build a roster given the financial caps that you guys have right now. But I
Yeah,
think there's going to be some change for sure in the offseason.
there has to. Yeah, I mean, because like at this point, we've just become really numb to the fact that this is what the Sixers are. They're a 45, 50 win team, and they'll probably lose in the first round each year, at best second round. So yeah, I think change is needed. But again, like you said, those are hard contracts to move off of. Paul George still has two more years. I believe Embiid is 4, and I don't know if he's going to be able to make it through the rest of those 4 years. But yeah, it's there's a lot of like questionable contracts you have to maneuver your way around. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see during the offseason. They do have a pick this year from the McCain trade. I think it had to do with like where the Bulls or Rockets were positioned or something like that. But they do have a pick this year, so if they want to move in the direction of a rebuild, I think they have the ammo to do so. So yeah, they're just in a really like gray area, I would say, if that makes sense. Kind of similar to Phoenix in a way, I would say, where it's just like they're kind of just like they're not bad enough to tank, but they're also like not good enough to compete. They're just solidified there at
Kind of like Miami, maybe.
Miami, yeah. I like to equate Miami to the Pittsburgh Steelers of the NBA. They always kind of sneak their way in. They're never awful. I mean, the only difference is they've made a miracle run the last few years, but like they're also in a similar position where I saw a report today saying, and I know they say this every year, but they said there's going to be like a monumental change this offseason, whether that's they go after Giannis or they decide to just kind of pull the plug and rebuild, which I don't see Pat Riley kind of going through that, to be honest with you. And so no, there's and that's a lot of the Eastern Conference. I mean, outside of like Boston, New York, I'd say Detroit as well, although I think Detroit's roster construction is also kind of all over the place, even though they put it together for this season. Those are all teams though that like are kind of set to compete for the foreseeable future. So yeah, it's a gray area. They're in a gray area. It's a good way to put it.
Definitely. I mean, I think a lot of those teams at the top of the East are also built through the draft. So I think you don't necessarily need to try to, make a home run hit in the offseason and try to go after someone crazy. Like Miami's done that a bunch of times with Giannis and Dame, and they just fail. They've tried many times to go after guys. And I think the best version of Miami is just identifying players that fit their culture. And
they're good at it. They're good at
doing that, So I think it's just sticking to what, can get you to a level of sustainability. And I think Philly, looking back, they probably messed up the McCain thing, but it's like finding guys through the draft that can be a part of your long-term core and then pairing those guys with the necessary vets. Like that's exactly what Detroit did. They sucked for a few years, but they developed those young guys and then paired them with a Tobias Harris or, Malik Beasley at one point. Duncan Robinson came in, guys like that can just come in and sort of change the culture around. And
it's a good fusion.
Boston did the same thing, surrounding Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown with some really good vets, as they got older too. So I think it's just about sort of finding that balancing act. But I don't think you guys found the proper building surrounding pieces.
When you're tied to two players like George,
you guys are capped.
That's the problem, and they're going to obviously try to move on from Paul George. Embiid, there's this weird thing where I kind of see him as Devin Booker's way. I he's going to finish his career. I think he's going to play the rest of his career here. I feel like his potential where they could have traded him, I feel like that's past where he could have been like, oh, all right, it's kind of reaches a Giannis point where he's like, I feel like I maximized this roster. I don't think I can win anymore. So I went out. I feel like that's kind of that ship has sailed now. So I think he'll just kind of be here for the rest of his career, which also kind of handicaps as well. I mean, he's getting paid over $200 million. So that hurts. And then they're obviously going to try to trade Paul George, but it's a contract that's hard to move off of. So yeah, it's going to be an interesting offseason, which I think I've already kind of moved on to at this point. Just kind of based off of, I thought the only shot we had is if we got the 5 seed, but even at this point, the 7 seed, you're playing Boston, who's He was Tatum back, and they're starting to click, and it's been a house of horrors for the Sixers in the playoffs the last like 10 years. Yeah, it's just I've kind of accepted their fate. I'd love to be wrong, but I don't think I am. But yeah, like you said, it's gonna be an interesting offseason for sure.
Could you see maybe just them trying to take the blueprint? Not that it's like they're the first team that did it, but Phoenix obviously were in a tough financial position last year with KD, Booker, and Beal, and obviously just bought out Beal, moved on from KD. Obviously, KD's KD. He has some suitors. It's different
Yeah, of
with
course.
Philly, but I mean, at least buying out one of your top guys, and then I think what Phoenix ended up doing was just finding little ways to sort of improve their roster through free agency and trades. Like the tough thing about what you guys can do is like you guys can't really make the trades. So I don't
You
know
don't
if
have
I
value.
don't
It's
know
the
if
thing.
that's the thing. Like it's like none of
Yeah,
those guys can like garner like obviously Phoenix kind of they made like small moves, but really the biggest things that changed them was moving on from KD and getting a
buying
guy
out
like Jalen
Beal.
Green and
Yeah,
getting someone like Dylan Brooks. Like those are culture
of course.
changing pieces. But I just don't think you guys can do that. So it's really tough. Like, what do you guys do? Like, even if you do buy out, let's say Paul George, I mean, like, what do you do from there? You know?
Yeah, it's that's a topic for a whole nother topic
Yeah,
for time.
I guess
But
Phoenix is probably not a good example because you guys don't have
no,
trade value. So
but yeah, you kind of know what I'm getting at. Whereas like there's a chance where you can kind of shelf or not or there's a way you can kind of move on from your top spenders and focus more on a rebuilder, as a lot of people like to say, retool, which is it's you're still keeping the same guys. Like you'll still keep Embiid, but you're gonna go out there and try and acquire some very solid role players, which is what teams usually do at the deadline. But the Sixers didn't do that, and yeah, they're in a really tough spot right now. So,
mhm. Well, I mean, all hope is not lost. I think you guys have a game tonight, so I mean, there's still
yeah,
reasons to be optimistic and get your guys spot booked in the playoffs, and we'll see what happens. I mean, I think you guys have a favorable matchup tonight against a
yeah,
team that's also unpredictable. So I'm expecting a really good game. And as far as a series potentially with Boston or Detroit, I mean, that's going to be a tall task. That's going to be a tough
yeah.
ask out of
It's
Philly. But
going
I
down.
mean, that's just that's a conversation again for another day.
For sure. Yeah. It's just
Yeah,
at this
but
point, it's just getting to the playoffs. I think like it's
exactly.
one
So
step better.
I'll be tuned in. Going to be rooting for you
Yeah.
guys. I mean, I've liked what I've seen from Philly. They swept Minnesota this year 2-0. So when they're clicking, they can look really good. So
Absolutely.
I'm interested
Yeah.
to see like what version of them shows up tonight.
Me too, as well. Yeah. And the play-in's been really good so far, so I
Yeah,
expect it to be a pretty good game tonight. So yeah,
yeah, definitely. I stayed up to watch that last game with Portland and Phoenix. Man, I thought Phoenix figured it out. I
I
thought
thought
they were
Phoenix
going to
had
pull
it in
it
the
out.
bag. They were up 11 with like 6 minutes left. I thought it was over, and then
Man,
Abdia and the Trailblazers just kind of turned it on. Yeah, it was, and that I mean, the first game was just ridiculous, and I think that was a good game to complement it with. So tonight,
yeah,
I mean, I think Warriors and Clippers could be a pretty good game as
for
well.
sure. I mean, it could be another good slate tonight. I think
Yeah, definitely.
good matchups. So teams
Yeah,
that sort of fit each other in a similar way. I think maybe not the best teams in terms of like going into the playoffs and causing some damage, but I think when you look at Orlando and what they can do, like at their peak, they can compete with a lot of teams, and similar with Philly. And then the Clippers, they had some really good stretches this year. They started the year terribly, similar to Charlotte, and turned their season around kind of. And like when they're clicking, they can look really good, and that's really reliant on Kawhi. And then the Warriors getting Steph back, that's a completely different
yeah.
team. So I
It's
mean,
hard.
we'll see, man.
It's hard to count Steph Curry out of playoffs. So
Exactly.
yeah,
Can never do that. So
no,
yeah, man. I appreciate you coming on.
absolutely.
30-minute pod, efficient pod. So appreciate you as always. And hopefully we can do another one of these again pretty soon.
For sure. Thank you, Marcus, for having me on. Yeah.
Of course. All right, guys. Finale pod. Appreciate you guys. And we're out.